Okay. Welcome to the Inspiration Show with Roz Thornton and Richard Marchand. So, I have a couple of guests that are going to be coming on later on this evening. We're going to be talking about weight loss and how to lose weight safely and also to get healthy and strong after being on lockdown for how many months? Maybe, what was it, since March we've been on lockdown. And I'm particularly interested in this show tonight because I myself found that when I went to the gym, I was horrified to see that I'd actually put on a stone. So I have actually put on what is commonly known as the COVID stone. So we're just going to wait and see if we can get any more guests coming on tonight. Hi, Lizelle. Hi. Nice to see you. Hi, Aniva. Hi, Olivia. Or Oliver. Hi. Hi. Thanks for coming on. So, I'm just going to see if we can get any of our guests to come on tonight. Yeah, and let's see what happens. So I'm just seeing if one of our guests is going to come on. So tell us about your experience of lockdown. Tell us about, have you put on weight? Are you dying to get back into the gym? The gyms are now open in the UK. So, a lot of people have started going back to the gym. Or are you one of those people that didn't want to go back to the gym? Maybe you got into a healthy routine at home. So we want to hear about all your stories. We want to hear about what's been going on for you guys in the gym. Um, so we've got one of our guests is going to come on. She's going to talk about mindful eating and mindful nutrition. So if she's not able to get on, then I will start talking about it. But yeah, it's such a fascinating subject. And if any of you have got any experience of weight loss, if you've got any tips, then do share them with us, and we can share them with everybody else, because I think this is something that a lot of people will be affected by, particularly, dare I say, women like myself who are of a certain age and maybe entering towards menopause. That doesn't help with things like weight loss. So we are all in this together and we're looking at how we can lose weight. So I'm just waiting to see if we can get any of our guests on. Okay, so I'm not quite sure what's happening. So looks like I'm back on now. So we're going to have our first guest come on and talk to us about how we can best lose weight and feel great, basically, because of lockdown. A lot of us have actually put on a few pounds, myself included. So I'm really, really excited. Hi, Lainey.
Hi, Roz. How are
Thank
you?
you for. I'm great. I'm great. Thank you for coming on. And we got there in the end.
Sorry, do you know I was looking at the wrong live video? I think I was looking at your last live video, so sorry about
Uh, never mind, never mind. So, how are you? You've just come back off holiday, haven't you?
yes. A
Ah,
lovely wet lovely classic wet British holiday.
well, I mean, I was on holiday the week before and we got lots of sun, so we were really lucky.
Yeah, no, it's not
Yeah,
just nice to get away. Nice to get away.
it is nice to get away. So you're all refreshed now and ready to talk to
Yeah.
us
Yeah.
about, well, you do lots of things. So I'm going to introduce you. I know you
Okay.
do quite a lot of different things, but tonight we really are interested in learning about how we can safely lose weight after that COVID stone and that lockdown belly, myself
Mm.
included, guilty as charged. So I am particularly interested and excited to hear about what you've got to say. So I'm going to introduce you. So Elaine or Lainey Lisborg is a yoga teacher, gong sound therapist, sports massage therapist, and mindful nutrition coach. Where many people think yoga is for fitness, Elaine's focus is on healing the mind and body through conscious breath work, meditation, yoga, and nutrition to cultivate a loving relationship with yourself. She works with people in groups, one to one, online, or in person, using a combination of these practices that can help with weight loss, depression, anxiety, and trauma. She's based in Berkshire, which is just outside London, and has been doing this work for 2 years after leaving her job as a primary school teacher. So before we go into the questions, I just want to ask you what it was like, transitioning from being a primary school teacher to now doing the raft of things that you're doing now, which is all in the wellness space. How did that transition come about?
Well, from my own wellness journey, really,
Mm.
I don't think it's a secret that being a teacher is probably one of the most stressful jobs out there. Incredibly rewarding, but it really did affect my mental health and my comfort eating. And after returning to my yoga practice, and actually, I'd been teaching children yoga for years in school, and I just really wanted to bring something to adults who might be going through what I went through too. And that's just kind of the path my life has taken since, and is incredibly rewarding too. And I think in particular, when you're in a high-paced work environment, you're quite dependent on your creature comforts, especially caffeine and all the cakes you get in the staff room all the time. And I reached a point about 4 years ago where I'd put on quite a bit of weight. I was sort of borderline obese, and because I was just eating my emotions and trying to use that to deal with the high-paced job. And so I had been going to yoga for my anxiety and stress levels, but
Mm-hmm.
I also took a mindful nutrition course. And what I've done with the course I've produced has merged yoga and the mindful nutrition. So it works with your mental well-being as well as the nutrition side, because they are kind of interlinked.
Wow, thank you for that. So tell us about the work that you're doing and who you
Mm.
work with. So we'd be interested to hear
Mm.
about, the
So
work that you're doing at the moment.
this was a course that I'd been developing for about 9 months before lockdown. And like everyone, like many people during lockdown, it's an uncertain time. Um, and I returned to, I'll show you a picture. Shall I show you a picture?
Yes,
So
please.
I returned to my mindful eating habits because I'd put on
Mm.
about 9 pounds. Um, so here's a picture of me in April, sort of at the height of lockdown, and then there's me about 8 weeks later, 6 weeks later.
Wow.
So, I
Yeah,
mean, you can just
yeah.
see, I mean, obviously
You
there've been
can
a bit
just
of
see it
sun,
in
which
your
helps.
face a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, and just by, and it was really easy. It was, I work with a lot of people who've done lots of diets before, or I've even worked with people with eating disorders, binge eating disorders, things like that. And yeah, people who are fed up of the fad diets. This is just a bit more grounded and sensible. That's I'm not dissing the diet, the different
Mm,
eating plans, but that's actually something that one of my clients said. Was she said it's not faddy,
mm,
it's grounded and sensible. So it's all about being able to tune into your true hunger, because
mm.
all the outside influences, from advertising to packaging to the presentation in the shops, or eat this, eat that, we've kind of, and eat then, or eat now.
Mm,
We just don't
mm.
really know. And emotional layers, historical layers, if you were
Yes.
in a big family and you snooze or lose, get your food
Yeah.
in.
That was me. Yeah.
or
Yeah.
or just, the classic, you should finish everything on your plate before
Yeah.
you
That was
have
me too.
pudding. Yeah. And all of that was done with love,
Mm,
wasn't it, from our
mm.
parents? But
Absolutely.
and yeah, sorry, go on.
No, and also like growing up, all the occasions, all the celebrations, and all the fun occasions are all always around
Mm,
food and sweet things like cakes and things like
mm,
that. So again, it's a link, isn't it? It's a reminder of all those happy occasions. So tell us a bit about the emotional side of eating, because I know you work with clients around sort of emotional eating and mindful eating.
yeah.
So what is that about, and how do you work with your clients on that?
Okay,
Mm,
so there's a very, very long questionnaire that you fill in
right.
before the course. The course is
Mm-hmm.
actually called Enlightened Nutrition because it's like,
Ah.
oh, it kind of sounds like someone turning the lights on, like, okay.
Mm,
So you mentioned how celebrations and things, that's a kind of a reward, isn't it? So that's where we make that emotional connection with all the treat foods. And it's sort of, especially with the more emotional eaters, we work with your breath. We cultivate a guided meditation practice to really step back from that craving. Just take a few deep breaths, and that can actually really recenter you. So I can see you just took a deep breath there. Just with that guidance, it just sort of just
mm.
having that person there to hold your hand, if you like, virtually or in fact, well, not hold your hand because we're socially
No,
distant, but
virtually hold your
um,
hand.
there are lots of different yogic practices on the course, but it's not to say that's bendy yoga. A lot of the yoga is just lying down and listening, which is some people's favorite type of yoga. So
Yes.
that's yoga nidra, which is a
Mm,
deeply relaxing practice, and
mm-hmm.
work on your breath. And we sort of go deeply. It feels a little bit hypnotic at times. Also, because a lot of us don't know how to properly relax. When we choose to relax, we watch the telly or we look at our phone. And these guided practices you get for daily use, um, they bring you into a more relaxed state, and then you can make more sensible food choices. Um,
Mm.
and just, yeah, learning to tap into that. Is it hunger or emotion? And what can I do about it?
Ah, so there's a questionnaire, then you bring in some breath work, some
Yeah.
yoga practices, and then you help people, I guess, to question whether they're really hungry and whether it's true hunger or whether it's emotional. We're making, like you say, emotional connections
Mhm.
with the food. So what do you do then? So once you're sort of in that dilemma and
Mhm.
you sort of say, well, okay, I'm not sure if I'm really hungry. What if you're in the say for example it's 1 o'clock and we've been programmed, haven't we, to eat
Yeah.
lunch at a certain time, but what actually, if you sort of say to yourself, okay, I've done the deep breath work, I've done my meditation, I'm not sure if I'm actually hungry or not, what what could they do, what could a person do then?
Always drink a glass of water
Mm,
when you feel
yes.
hungry, and a whole one, not just a sip,
Mm,
because those signals feel the same to your brain and your stomach.
right. Yes.
Um, so definitely have a whole glass of water and distract yourself. Get out of the kitchen, do
Yes.
something different, go for a walk. I mean, if you can. But you're absolutely right. We've got these times, and breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Then have lunch at this time. And we talked about it before. We spoke today actually about how to get past that too, because sometimes your body won't need food first thing in the morning, and a lot of people have been taught breakfast is the most important meal of the day.
Mm,
But what happens on the course is when you work with this breath work and this drinking, that we have a whole sort of
mm.
methodology around it. Eventually, well, some days you might feel like you don't want breakfast, and then some days you feel starving. But eventually, as you work with it, you begin to sort of reset your relationship with food, and you will eat breakfast. But if you're not a breakfast person, you
Mm.
might not. But we just need to check that you're not getting so hungry that you eat the wrong things mid-morning.
Yeah, because I mean, even for me, if I talk about my own personal journey in
Mhm,
relationship with food, I've never really enjoyed breakfast, and quite often I'm not really that hungry in the mornings.
mhm.
Um, so is it okay to skip breakfast and just go straight to lunch, or
Um,
just maybe
it,
snack on some fruit or something?
yeah,
I don't know. Yeah.
it depends what your body feels like it needs, and with the
Mm,
course, you'll get to know that. But
mm,
absolutely, or you might want to say you do get starving mid-morning, you can't quite make it to lunchtime. You might find that making a nice green smoothie with lots of goodness in it, nut butters and things like that, and having that ready for you mid-morning will tide you over to lunchtime, and then you will have had all sorts of yummy, good
mm,
food. And then you can have your meal at lunch. Um,
mm.
but there's no one size fits all with
Fits
this.
all.
And so it
Interesting.
is. it's a group coaching course, but I'm sort of available
Mm,
for,
mm,
inquiries. We have a Facebook group and things like that.
mm,
And there's lots of support throughout the week in terms of recordings and weekend boosters. I do a Facebook Live for the members of the course as well to get through that weekend mindfully rather
mm.
than falling off the wagon. We have a sleek yacht that we're on.
Rather than a wagon. I like
Yeah.
that. It sounds good. It sounds classy. So, so what have been the main issues for the people in your groups that you teach? What have been the main sort of eating issues?
So we do have one anorexic lady. Well,
Mm,
she had anorexia. I beg your pardon.
mm,
She had anorexia,
mm-hmm,
but then she went the other way and has really just struggled with knowing what to eat and binge eating. And the course has really helped her just stop binge eating completely, which
mm,
was amazing. Results may vary, obviously, and we did a little bit of one-to-one work together because of her needs. But it's been a really positive experience for her. People who obsessively calorie count, I was one of those people. And actually, some people find it hard to let go of calories, first of all, because there are no banned foods on this program. It's all about really slowing down your eating, figuring out when you're hungry, but also just even enjoying your food even more. But
mm,
the way we slow our eating down and use mindfulness techniques means you feel fuller, or not fuller, you feel no longer hungry sooner. We don't want to eat till we're
mm,
full. Um,
mm,
but you enjoy it more because you're using all the senses and having a real experience being present with your food.
mm. So, so what is the first thing? So, what is the first thing that you do with your clients? And so you've got them all on the course. So, how many people do you have in a group typically?
12 to 20. I try
Okay,
and keep it
wow.
small. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, and because I really want to be able to help people properly,
Mm,
and
mm,
keep it personal, and create just a really nice community, people sharing their meals. But the first thing is there's a whole eating history questionnaire that gets
mm,
sent out. And when we first started, when we did the beta testing and the last group, they already started chatting in the first session about, I didn't realize this had such an impact. If, for example, being given a treat when you're feeling upset when you were little, things
mm,
like that, immediately it starts that emotional relationship with food.
mm, mm.
Um, what else? Water intake is huge. Most of us are
Mm.
dehydrated.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm going to have just a sip of my water now.
Yes. And what's the recommend? Is it two? It's 2 liters, isn't it, for an adult?
It is. I personally need about three a day. That's just me. And
Mm,
depending on the salt content of your food, you might need more as well.
mm.
Um, always
And
having,
most of us struggle, don't we, to even get to 2 liters, I think. Because
yeah.
people say, "Oh, well, I drink juice or I drink herbal teas." What about that? That's
So juice, they say so
experts.
the experts, the government, Public Health England,
Mm,
that has been in the news a bit recently, haven't they? They say 6 to 8 waters a day, and limit fruit juice or smoothies to only 150 mils a day. That's like an
mm,
old-fashioned small glass of wine, like the one from the
wow.
70s. So it's a little bit bigger than that, because otherwise, after that, it just becomes sugar, which
Ah,
can cause other issues and more cravings.
right.
And I mean, I don't know about you, when you get that lovely fresh orange juice, you don't want to drink just that
Mm.
much, do you? So it's
No,
hard.
no, and also, well, this is a thing because I make smoothies. I put things like spinach and
Mm,
kale, but I'll add things like strawberries and banana to sweeten it up, and I'll make a big thing of it. So are we
that's
not allowed to
fine.
have, is
No,
that
no,
fine
that's
or we're not
fine.
allowed to have that?
No, that's absolutely fine because that's more of a meal and it's not
Mm.
juice. So you've got some fruit
Ah,
in it, but you've got
yes.
vegetables. So that
Mm.
sounds lovely. That sounds
Mm.
perfect actually for your
Oh,
mid-morning maybe.
yeah.
Well done, A star.
I still put on a COVID stone though.
Oh, I know, I know.
Despite
And
all
that
my efforts, yeah.
Well, yeah, it is. It's. I think we have to be kind to ourselves as well. That's another thing
Mm,
on the course because
mm,
it's slow and steady, the loss as well. You're not gonna. Well,
mm,
some people might see a big drop at first, but if you've ever done any diets in the past, it's sort of you'll do really well the first couple of weeks, and then it plateaus a bit, which is quite normal.
mm,
And then some
mm,
people might lose lose
mm,
inspiration, whereas this is kind of just slow and steady. And it stays off because we're teaching new habits that
mm.
stick.
So you were saying earlier about when people start, you get them to photograph their
Oh
food.
yes,
Is that
sorry.
right? Yeah.
That comes second week of the course. So there's so many
Mm.
things to do. We have to
Mm-mm.
really just layer it on as we go.
No, but it's good to
Um,
get that information out because obviously there may be people watching that actually do want to go on the course.
yeah,
So it's kind of like it's good to sort of, you know, give people a taste of what to expect. So there's the questionnaire, an in-depth questionnaire at the beginning,
yeah,
and then you're in a group situation.
yeah.
You
And
talk
we
about things like breath work and water intake, and then you do the photographing of every meal. Yeah, is that right?
That's right. And
Yeah.
yes, like you mentioned, we do have a tracker
Mm.
as well that we start
Mm-hmm.
with at the beginning. So you'll take pictures, measurements. Some people, if they've had an eating disorder, I might say don't weigh yourself. We'll measure other
Mm.
things. Also measuring your mood. But
Mm.
then yes, in from week two, we use an app to take pictures of everything we eat. And it's really, really powerful actually.
Mm.
Some of the ladies on my last course were just couldn't believe how many times they were eating in the day. And actually
Mm.
you take a picture and gradually you'll notice the color of your food as well.
Mm.
So if it's a beige day and you're probably feeling quite sluggish, so one of the golden rules of the course is to really start eating the rainbow as much as possible.
Mm.
Yeah.
And I think people don't realize as well as just how long they have to keep those eating habits up. I mean, I think people think, oh well, I've eaten really, really well for a week, so now I can go back to eating chocolate cake and pizzas
Hmm.
and crisps, and it doesn't really work like that. I
Mm.
mean, one of the main things is we have this whole multi-billion-pound diet industry, don't we? And
Yeah.
they talk about this diet and that diet, and I remember growing up and hearing about so many different diets when I was a teenager, and there's even more now probably. And it's not about dieting. I just wish the word diet or dieting would be
Mm.
erased because it's really about incorporating healthy eating habits into your whole life, and it's a whole life journey, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's a
Mm.
healthy relationship with food
Yeah.
because really, scientifically, your body knows exactly what it needs to survive. It knows what to eat and when to eat. It's just that we have our brain, our overactive brain, and all of those historical and emotional influences. So in yoga, we talk about the different energy bodies, and that's kind of built around these concepts. So you've got the Atman, which is the body with you start with the physical body and then the mental and then the emotional. And we sort of work our way out
Mm.
through that using yogic theory as well, which is all based
Mm.
around mental health really too,
Mm.
and
Mm.
and mindfulness.
Okay. So wow. So let's talk about things like the plate, because
Mm,
we have in our mind. I remember when I was being taught healthy eating. I can't even remember whether it was at school or wherever, maybe government posters or whatever.
mhm.
I remember seeing a plate that was kind of like a third protein, a third carbs, and a third vegetables. Yes, something like that, exactly like that. And so is that still true? Because we're obviously much more sedentary now. We don't move as much as we used to. We don't have jobs that require us to move as much as we used to. And it is a fact that we are bigger than we used to. Adults are bigger than they used to be 50, 60 years ago. So
Yeah.
yeah,
We
tell us about the plate.
definitely, yeah. So, well, this is the updated, most recent one, and you
Mm,
can still see that carbohydrates on it play a massive part, but you do get
mm,
carbohydrates from vegetables, and fruit. I still think this is too big. You've got
Yeah.
your proteins down here and your fats, and the fats here are a very small part, but
Hmm.
actually, when you mix fats and carbohydrates together, that really can slow down your gut as well.
Right.
I'm not the type of person to say cut out carbohydrates at all, but and then of course, sorry, here's another version here. So this was, I guess this is the American food pyramid in the 1970s.
Mm. Oh, wow. Look at all that carbs at the bottom.
And all that bread, bread
Oh.
is a lot of people have a gluten intolerance these
Mm,
days because the grain isn't what it was. I
mm,
try and stay clear of it. I try and just think of bread as cake, and it means I don't
yeah.
eat as much.
Yes. Oh,
Um,
that's a good idea. I like
yeah,
that idea.
and
Bread is cake.
it turns to sugar.
Yeah.
Fine, and even the gluten-free breads can be worse sometimes if that's
Mm.
the case.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, that was the sort of 1970s, and
Mm.
then the 2000s. Now you're looking at,
Ah,
and
yes.
can you see where bread is?
Right, like that tiny little bit at the top
Yeah,
with the
yeah,
cakes and the pastries.
yeah.
All the
Which I
nice
find really,
stuff.
and they're in moderation, right? Nothing's
Yes.
banned in
Yeah.
moderation.
Mm.
But I mean, this is quite a crude version of a pyramid, but there are lots of
Mm.
pyramids across the world,
Yeah.
um, and really just lots and lots of fresh vegetables and produce should
Mm.
take up, I would say, from there to there, actually.
Mm. Mm.
Uh, um, there we go. On the course, we look deeper into other food pyramids across the world, and people can make
Mm.
we look at Mediterranean, Asian, Indian
Mm.
diets. A lot of people like Mediterranean because there's a little picture of a wine bottle there. But
Well,
so
they
the
say a
top,
glass of red wine is actually quite good for you, every now, a couple of times a week. Yeah, small
yeah,
glass of red wine is quite
yeah,
good for your blood pressure. That's what
yeah.
we keep hearing. Um, but I guess it has to be culturally appropriate, like you were saying, from different
Mhm,
parts of the world, because wherever, depending on what your culture is and where you were born and, the way you was brought up. For example, you may eat lots of spicy foods. You may
mhm,
cook with lots of oil or butter. Depending on what you're used to. So it's
mhm,
it's really about working with that as well. And
mhm.
we were always told that fats were bad, weren't we? and
Yeah.
and now, is that still true, or there's good
No,
fats and bad fats?
that um yeah, trans fats are probably the worst kind of
Mm,
fats, but it's also about what you combine them with,
mm,
in terms of, so your whole, we're looking at a whole food diet is the
mm,
healthiest diet, so extra virgin olive oil, coconut oil, things like that, um and also I would definitely steer clear of combining them too much with your starches. Although I love a roast potato, all in moderation, enjoy
yeah.
it. But I think because a lot of people have heard that fat is healthy now, they're going a little bit overboard with it.
Right, right.
And in particular, diets like keto, which I is something I'm really think is quite dangerous. Um,
Ah, I
um,
see. I know a lot of people that have had a lot of success with the keto. It's not
yeah,
something I've tried myself, but when I've looked at it, it looks a bit like the Atkins diet,
it
with
does a
the,
bit.
yeah.
And
And you think that
high
could be quite
levels.
dangerous?
Well, I think the levels of protein are far more than you need.
Mm,
Um, we don't need as much protein as we've been told, unless you are
mm,
training. I know you've got someone on later who will be talking about training, but
mm,
unless you're talking about training, you don't need to. I mean, he will probably even say you don't need to supplement protein when
mm,
you're training. And there
mm,
are proteins in vegetables as well and grains too. And then you've got your dairy as well, which is still a moderation with
mm.
dairy. Um, so yeah, where was I going with that? Oh yes, so the fats. If you're using your fats, maybe drizzling it olive oil over your
Mm,
salad or over some roasted vegetables, something like that, rather than layering it on, or I mean, who doesn't love a bit of Lurpak with bread? But
mm.
Moderation again.
But you can use the spray oils. They're sometimes better, aren't they? The
Yeah,
oils in the spray. It
they're
helps you to sort of,
very
mm,
low fat, those.
mm,
And sometimes people say, oh, well, but you need the fat in your diet. You're probably getting it anyway, but if you use the spray oil, then you could drizzle some olive oil afterwards. That's what I do.
yeah, yeah, I know. Because you don't, it always comes out a bit too dry, doesn't it, when you do the spray oil? But
Yeah,
yeah, so that's really good. So there was something else. So how important is gut health? Then we talked about proteins, we
yeah.
talked about the plate. Oh, before we talk about gut health, so
Yeah.
just to finish off on the plate, is it fair then to say maybe a third? No, so maybe a half. Fill up
Half,
your plate half with fruit, well, not fruit, but vegetables,
yeah.
and maybe fruit if you want. But half the plate with vegetables, and then a quarter protein and a quarter carb. Would
Yeah,
that
something
sound?
like that.
Yeah,
Something like that,
as a
yeah.
guide, just as a guide.
As a general guide, definitely. And
Yeah,
they say have your 5 a day. I'd say it's probably more like 7 to 10 a day, really, which is quite hard
really.
to get it. You'll
That's
feel
hard to
so,
get in.
and that's where that brings us nicely to gut health, actually,
Yes.
because the more fresh produce and vegetables that you eat, the better your gut health. You have a whole separate nervous system called the enteric nervous system,
Mm.
which is your digestive system, and it can. I don't know if you've ever like for me with bread, I can get sort of heart palpitations sometimes, like almost anxiety. People who are gluten sensitive can get that.
Mm.
But what you put into your gut can affect your central nervous system, and your central nervous system and your enteric nervous system talk to each other.
Right.
So we do a session a bit more in depth with all the science and
Mm.
analysis here, but it just goes to show that if you're not feeding your body with the right foods and keeping yourself healthy and having that variety, your
Mm.
gut flora can be affected. And
Mm.
really, in an ideal world, you should be pooing 3 times a day.
Wow.
I know a lot that don't.
I don't know a lot of people that do
Wouldn't
that,
that be a
but
joy?
yeah.
Um,
Mm.
uh, and a lot of people, when they first come to the course, are going for a few days without. So, and that was
Mm.
something that happened to me. And so
Mm.
so we talked about putting into your gut to help your mental health, but also your
Mm.
mental health can affect your gut health.
Yes.
If you've ever had people who suffer from IBS and things like that, from stress, obviously that can affect how you pass things through your system and how
Mm.
you absorb nutrients as well. So if you suffer from IBS, you might have been to the doctors and they might say, okay, we'll switch your diet up, let's change
Mm.
this. You've still got to work on the stress level as well.
Mm.
And also, that's where the meditation and the breath work come in on the course, because you have something called the parasympathetic nervous system, which is your body's natural rest and digest response for helping you deal with stress. So as soon as you
Mm.
take a few deep breaths and you close your eyes and you go inwards, it starts making you feel calmer, it helps your gut relax. And doing that on a regular basis and just learning that that's something in your toolkit can really, really help your digestion as well.
Mm. So what would you say are the main good thing? I mean, we hear about fiber. So what would you say are the main good things? I mean, we've all heard about leafy green vegetables.
Yeah.
Um, is there anything else that you would suggest if somebody was just starting to improve their gut health?
Whole grains,
Mm.
but just be careful with wheat.
Mm.
Also pulses like lentils,
Yeah.
sprouted pulses. I love sprouting things and
Mm.
cooking them. You get that kind of turns them into a vegetable as well, so it's less carbohydrate as well in a way that you would have if you just cooked it there. I like to
Mm.
buy my pulses dry and then soak them overnight. I know we don't all have time for that, so there's so much available in tins as well, but they're really key to gut health, especially in Ayurveda, which is yogic nutrition.
Mm.
Um, yeah,
A lot of people might be scared of the dried pulses as well, because some of them, if you don't soak them properly and if you don't dispose of the water properly, you can actually give yourself food poisoning, which I know has happened to me before.
yeah,
So there sometimes can be a bit of a process, can't there, with the dried pulses, and I think a lot of people just would rather just get it out of a tin. But is that still just as good?
It's a good start. It's a
Yeah.
good start. If we,
Mm,
yeah, obviously fresh is always best, but if
mm,
there are so many things available out there right now, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And it is a faff, isn't it? And then
mm,
you gotta think ahead, and sometimes you're busy. And I think during lockdown, obviously, we've all had a chance to slow down and maybe experiment with these things, and people have been baking and growing vegetables and
mm.
things, which is a lovely, it's a luxury actually, isn't it? Which I probably miss a little bit when things
Yes,
to normal. Yeah,
if
so
they ever do.
yeah,
Yeah.
who knows?
So I'm going to ask you a question then. So sometimes we're in a rush. We're at work and we only have maybe 20 minutes or 30 minutes um, to get lunch. And this has happened to me before when I've been healthy eating and I've run in the supermarket and thought, right, I've got 20 minutes. I've got to get something healthy and I've got to eat it and then I've got to get back to work. And it's like, I've found myself walking up and down the crisp aisle about 10 times thinking, should I get a packet of crisps? No, I shouldn't. Yes, I should. No, I shouldn't. And then when I just think, right, now I'm going to get myself a salad, but then it's just not satisfying enough. So quite often I'll walk out with a salad and some cooked chicken or something like that. So what would advice would you give to somebody if they hadn't prepared? Because I know like the key is preparation, isn't it? Trying to think ahead and prepare your meals and prepare your lunches. But there's always going to be that time where we're caught out and we have to go to the supermarket to get something. So what advice would you give to somebody if they only had 20 minutes and they had to run into a supermarket and just grab a few things, not crisps, obviously. Yeah.
Yeah, crisps, my vice. But and it's interesting that you bring that up as well, because sandwiches, they're just sandwiches everywhere, aren't they? And if you ever have a sandwich at lunchtime, I don't know about you, but it makes me feel really sluggish, and my energy levels, you get that,
Mm,
it's a sugar dip. A sort of mid-afternoon, and then you want your chocolate bar or your crisps. So yes, my go-to would you can often get a boiled egg with a little bit of spinach in a pot, some carrot sticks and hummus,
mm,
um, which is always good, and that gets your healthy fats in as well, and a salad on the side. Or like your chicken choice is great. Did you find if you just get the chicken and the salad, you might find you're still a little bit hungry? So if you had a little bottle of olive oil, like a little one at your desk, just ready for emergencies, or a nice
mm,
or a bit of balsamic vinegar that you could just shake up, just to get that oil in to keep you
mm.
satisfied, keep the flavour, and not be too dry. That should
Yeah, it
see
was always a bit
you.
dry.
Yeah, just a a
Mm,
nice combination, because otherwise you feel like you're punishing yourself. It's like it's
mm.
not a real meal. But there are
Ah,
couscous things, but be aware of pasta salads, because it's just not a salad. It is just pasta and fat, which is probably not the best
not
combination,
the best.
and like it probably has the same energy levels as a burger. So, which I love a burger,
Wow. Yeah, so
but
you might as well eat the burger.
you may as well have a burger. Yeah.
Yeah. So the couscous, so I've had before the vegetable couscous
Oh,
and a
nice.
dollop of hummus.
Hmm.
Is that quite a healthy meal? And maybe some carrot sticks.
It depends on your portion
Mm,
size of the
mm.
couscous.
The
Um,
little pots that you get in the supermarket, the smaller ones.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
fine. Okay.
You might want to have
Mm.
that on some sort of leafy greens as well. But
Yeah.
sounds good for me because
Grab
of
a
my
bag of
gluten.
spinach.
Yeah, and for me, for my gluten issues, I tend to steer clear of couscous. But
Mm.
yeah, it's that it. I think they're starting to get a few more options there for people with
Mm.
gluten sensitivity. But yeah, it sounds
Yeah,
like
but
you're
there's
doing.
not a lot. Yeah, I know all the right things, but then, I'll have a giant bag of crisps when I get home because I think, oh, I was really healthy at lunchtime. So, so I go home and have a big bag of crisps and a nice
Yeah,
big glass of wine. So, yeah,
living the dream. Love it.
living the dream. Okay, so, whew, so thank you. I mean, you've given us lots and lots of information. So, what advice would you give to someone who's just starting on their nutrition journey and they may be struggling or, just what's the first thing they could start with? And then tell us a little bit about how people can access your course.
Okay.
Mm.
The first thing I would say is, why are you eating the way you do now? So really
Mm.
analyze how that's happened. And that's where the questionnaire comes in, actually.
Mm.
Really analyze your emotions, how you're feeling. There's a lot of self-sabotage that can happen. Um, do you have a self-care practice? It doesn't necessarily have to be in the yoga world, but are you looking after yourself? Because it's something we skip, especially as women,
Mm.
when we're sort of,
Mm.
with children. And yeah, even if it's, do you have a nice bath once a week or so? I'm not saying you don't wash. I'm just saying, but what do you, and it, not in terms of, oh, I treat myself to a glass of wine each week, or yeah, which is fine, but that's not self-care, is it?
No.
And I would just I would look at how much processed food you're eating.
Yeah. That's a good place to start, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And baby steps, because the
Yeah.
moment you drop everything and you've had the same habit for a while, that's just setting you up for failure. So
All right.
definitely just introducing things slowly, like the weaning process, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah.
So how can people access your course?
Okay, so on my Hygge Yoga page, Hygge means coziness. It's a sort of Danish concept linked to my upbringing.
Mm.
Um, so I have a mindful nutrition page. But can I put the link in later,
Yeah,
or?
yeah. If you send it to me, I'll drop it in the
Oh,
comments.
perfect.
Mm.
So it's a 6-week coaching course that starts on September the 7th. It's on Zoom, and we have a private Facebook group as well, 6:30 p.m. till 7:45 p.m. So you'd have
Mm.
about 60 to 75-minute session every Monday. So it kind of
Mm.
sets you up for the week. And it involves a yoga nidra relaxation. We have a masterclass on nutrition, and lots of discussion in the group. You have sort of homework for the week. It's just, you can interact. The more you interact with the course that is there for you, the more success you will have. But there's a toolkit for you to use. You have a meditation to listen to every day to keep you on track. And
Mm.
yeah, so you can access that from my website, Hygge Yoga, and I've extended the early bird deal. So it's £147 for the 6 weeks, but you can get it for £97 until this
Mm.
Friday.
Oh, so better get in quick if we want that. Thank you so much. And just one question I've got to ask quickly before you go. So, you were saying about people can take their measurements and things like that at the beginning, or to weigh themselves. Do they have to then submit that to the group or to you, or is it just for themselves?
Absolutely, for themselves.
Excellent.
We like to
Mm.
discuss our successes and be supportive of each other. We have,
Mm.
because it's called enlightened nutrition. Sometimes you might have
Mm.
an enlightened moment in the week when, like, pow, I did this. I didn't eat this because I realized that I was feeling emotional, so I did some breath work, or I
Mm.
drank lots of water today and ate half of what I normally would. So we share things like that on the Facebook
Yeah.
group, and you don't have to
Fantastic.
join the Facebook group. Um, I think the flexibility of the course
Mm.
really was something that the
And
ladies enjoyed.
people can get the recording if they can't make a live. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Mm.
So if you can't make a session, all the replays will be sent to you, and there's a private page on my website that you'll have access to. I highly encourage people to show up each week, because that interaction and that accountability really helps.
Mm.
But sometimes things happen and life happens, doesn't it? And you can't make it.
Mm.
So you do have the catch up available.
Excellent, excellent. So we've got just a few quick. Someone saying some powerful information. Someone's recommended quinoa as
Oh,
a good alternative.
mhm.
Um, Someone said if they eat too much that's from Denise. Hi, Denise. If I eat too much carbs, I swell up with inflammation.
Yeah.
Healthy eating is for life. Yeah. So we've had quite a few comments. So that's brilliant. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, and so like I said, send me your links. I'll drop them in the comments, and people can sign up to your course if they want to, or they can contact you if they want any further information. Brilliant.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, no problem. All right.
Thank you
Thanks,
so
Roz.
much. Thank
Okay.
you. Lovely to meet
Bye.
you.
And
Bye.
bye.
Wow, that was quite a lot of information we got from Lainey there. And I think, yeah, yes, I mean, she definitely comes across as knowing her stuff, and she's definitely got a different approach to the whole healthy eating and emotional eating, which is quite a big thing. So if you want any more information, I am going to post her details. So I'm just looking now to see if our next guest is coming on. I'm looking for Chris. So Chris, if you're there, do say hi to me, and then quickly I can bring you on. But yeah, so her course is starting in September, and it's 6 sessions. So it's going to be done over 6 weeks, and it does sound really fascinating. So I will be taking a look at that as well. So if you're really looking to lose that COVID stone or that lockdown belly, then you may be interested to see what's on Lainey's course. So that's brilliant. So um, and before we go tonight, I'm just looking. So, Chris, if you're there, so brilliant. I've found Chris. So I'm going to bring him on. So Chris is a personal trainer, and so he's into fitness. So hi, Chris. Hi.
Hello, how are you?
Hello. I'm fine, thank you. Thank you for coming on.
No worries. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, I can hear you
Yeah,
very
good.
well. Very well. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Very well.
Good, good, good. So, Chris, I'm going to introduce you without further ado. So, Chris Betteridge is a personal trainer, sports massage therapist, yoga instructor, and a yoga instructor. Whereas most challenge and change people's lifestyles, he challenges the mindset and attitudes behind the lifestyle first. He is based in Hampshire and has been doing this work for 7 years. So, Chris, you're a personal trainer with a difference, yeah?
I am indeed.
So tell us about your work and why your approach is different to other personal trainers.
Well, you've said it already. I,
Mm,
I try to encourage them to challenge their mindsets and attitudes to their lifestyle rather than just changing the lifestyle itself.
mm,
So we dig a little bit deeper into why they want what they come asking for and
mm,
asking to achieve. And as a result, we get a far deeper result because you're challenging the mental attitudes behind it, much in the same way that Lainey's been talking about
yeah.
already in terms of the emotions behind things.
So you go much more deeper into the mindset and the psychological aspects of why people want to train, why they want to lose weight, and all of that, rather than just jumping into, yes, let's start training and burning up calories and like what most of us do. We just think, right, just need to lose weight. But actually what you're saying is that you take your time a little bit and find out what's going on underneath the surface. Yeah?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. So, we've got,
Mm,
most personal trainers, when someone walks in and says, I want to lose weight, they'll go, right, this is how we do it, and very much get started.
mm,
I'm very much more of the mindset, I'll sit down and we have a chat for an hour. And first question is why?
mm.
And we dig past that and we look past it.
So we say, why?
Um,
Because I want to be a size 10, Chris.
okay, so why do you want to be a size 10?
Because
And we go,
I
and
want to
this is the
look
thing.
like Bo Derek running down the beach.
But then why is that important to you? And then we
Because
start
we've been
digging through that.
programmed to believe that that's the idea of beauty,
Well,
maybe.
this is it. This is it. There are different reasons that that they can be grouped. We'll potentially talk about that a little bit later.
Mm,
But um, typically people aren't really aware of why they want what they come in asking
mm,
for. And I think that's bearing in mind this is the very first step of the process. I think that's actually where a lot of people fall off and they
right.
get it wrong. Because
Mm,
if you're not aware of exactly why you want to do something, why do you want to lose weight? If you haven't sat down and considered that, rather than just going, right, I want to lose 10 kilos because I want to be this dress size, that's not very motivating.
mm,
Whereas if you take yourself past that, it takes guts, it takes courage. And I've had a few clients turn around to me and say, that very first session that we sat down, it was almost frustrating because I wanted to get going, and you were saying, right, let's slow down,
yeah.
let's take it back, and let's dig a little bit deeper. And I think you get far more powerful results at the end because you really unlock the motivations once you understand what you actually want, what you're really asking for, and then we start achieving that. Everything else then settles down. We stop punishing ourselves quite as much, and we start looking at
Mm.
chasing what is that much more fulfilling rather than just satisfying that.
So when you've actually got beneath the surface with people,
Hmm.
what has been the main reason why people want to lose weight. What I mean, obviously, once you've got beyond the, oh, I want to be a certain dress size, or whatever, I want to look like this, and they might hold up a picture of a celebrity. Um,
Hmm.
Once you've got beneath the surface and you've started the questioning, what are the main reasons really why people lose weight, want to lose weight?
They vary dramatically on the surface. When you break them down, they fit one of three categories. So the first one is health.
Mm,
So people want to be healthy. They're worried about illness. They're worried about disease. They're worried about all these different things that we know and we hear from different governing bodies and diet groups and all the rest of it that's out there to get us if we're overweight. So that's
mm.
the first one, is that health.
Health, yeah.
Second is confidence.
Mm,
People
mm,
want to be more confident in who they are. They want to be happy with who they are. They want to be able to look at themselves in the mirror. You'd be surprised how many people come to me and they're unable to stand in front of the mirror themselves
mm.
and look at themselves with any shred of positivity.
Yeah, as
And
coaches, we do this thing, particularly when I work with female groups. We do
yep.
a mirror exercise where you get them to
Hmm.
look at themselves, just like a small compact mirror.
Yep.
And, people will be shocked to hear how many people just do not want to look at themselves, even in
That's it.
a very small mirror. And
Hmm.
that we have to do some confidence work to get them to the stage where they can actually look at themselves, let alone start to say really positive things about themselves. So
This is it. I
yeah,
mean, that's quite a difficult skill, actually,
yeah,
being able to say something positive about yourself.
yeah.
But if people want to empathize with that, if they want to, if they are surprised that people can't look at themselves in the mirror, the quickest way to empathize with it is have someone take your picture.
Yeah.
Now, how quickly do you want to check that picture?
Mm,
Have someone take your picture and put it on social media for you, and don't experience that, oh my God, what does that look like, kind of
mm,
thing.
mm,
And that's that surface level of it. Um, and when you're then standing in front of a mirror, you're alone with your deepest, darkest thoughts. There's no one there to correct you. There's no friends there to help you out. You are
mm,
there, and it's just you and what's up here, and it's a
mm,
dark place to be. So you got health, and then you got confidence as a second, and the third one is pain management or injury management.
mm, mm,
So they're typically the three global reasons that people then want to lose weight. And once you dig past that, actually we find that weight loss isn't always the best way to get there on all three.
mm. So weight loss is not always the best way to get there. So what is the best way to get there then?
All right, so you've got to talk about each one
Mm.
individually.
Oh,
So
okay.
you look at health,
Mm-hmm.
and if you look at the actual definition of health that's recognized by the World Health Organization, the definition is physical, social, and mental well-being, complete physical, social, and mental well-being.
Mm,
Now, when you lose weight, you chase statistics, whether it's muscle mass, whether it's fat percentage, whether it's body weight, whether it's hip to waist ratio, any of those things. You're satisfying that one that one criteria, that physical well-being, and it's the statistical, I'll speak, um, relevance of that one.
mm,
But in order to do that, we typically talk about restriction in terms of calories, and we typically talk about punishment in terms of exercise to burn
mm.
off the calories to justify what you've eaten, in which case that quite often sacrifices those other two in social and mental well-being.
Yes.
Mentally, to take things away from us all the time, to say no all the time to all those things that we enjoy, those comforts we like, and to physically take yourself through all those fitness classes that burn the most calories. Quite often that sacrifices the mental well-being straight away. If you don't enjoy exercising, that's normally one of the first things to go. And then
Mm,
socially, if you're faced with the circumstance where friends are inviting you out, but you know that you're on a mission to try and lose weight, you're going to take yourself away
mm,
from those situations. And you talk to Elaine about being in a situation where you're suddenly caught with 20 minutes in a supermarket. Well, you can suddenly be caught in a social situation where all of your friends have walked into a coffee shop and they're getting muffins and coffees and things like that, and suddenly you're then sitting there thinking, well, should I do it?
mm,
And so quite often what I've seen lots of my clients start to withdraw themselves from those social situations where they might end up doing something
mm.
that they're later going to feel guilty about. And so if health is actually what we're really looking for, we need to look at
Or
all
three. That is
three
so
at once.
interesting. That's the first time
And
I've
that's,
heard anyone put it like that. So that's really good.
well, we are a country that is constantly being told, we're a population that's constantly being told that we are in an obesity crisis. But behind all of that, we've got an even bigger mental health crisis going on.
Mm, yes.
And I don't think those two things are unrelated.
Mm,
Um, And I think the trick for fighting obesity in this country is trying to teach people self-worth and trying to tackle mental health issues
Absolutely.
now.
Mm.
And unfortunately, I think the obsession with weight loss is fighting the wrong way.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's a multi-billion pound industry, isn't it? Like the whole diet
It is.
industry, the beauty industry as well, that's all
Mm-hmm.
linked, you know. Look like,
Yep.
take this cream and you'll look like this, or eat this
Indeed.
product and you'll look like
Mm-hmm.
that. And, you know, we're all kind of conditioned from a very young age to look up to these images. You know, I was joking about it earlier about, you know, wanting to look like Bodo. Of course I don't. But it's like we're very conditioned from a very, very young age to have very ideal images of beauty and size and what you should look like. But actually, you
Mm-hmm.
know, the average person, I mean, the average size of a woman in the UK is size 16.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, what are the chances of, you know, a lot of those women actually looking like the images that we see? But then again, it's a kind of punishment, isn't it? Because every time you walk past an advert or a billboard or you look in a magazine, it can actually bring you down a little bit because you think, well, I don't look like that, so you know,
Totally.
what the hell. But you know, these companies are very clever because psychologically they'll plant the seed that you know, you're not good enough,
Mm-hmm.
you know, if you don't look like this, you're not good enough. And if you're not good enough, you can take our product, buy it, and you suddenly you'll feel better about yourself. And
Yep.
that process will probably last about 5 minutes. Yeah, you might feel
Mm-hmm.
good when you bought the thing, but actually, you know, you're back to square one, like you say, when you're by yourself with your own thoughts and you have to look at
Yep.
yourself in the mirror. You know, that product is not going to help you then, is it? So it's
No.
really about what you're saying is having a much more holistic approach to how we feel about ourselves and how we feel about our
Absolutely.
health, and actually really think it through what's good for us in our body,
Yep.
in our own bodies. Yeah,
Yep.
that's
I mean, if you take lots of
mm,
the, lots of people who are shapes that, that they believe that they are too big for
mm,
society
mm,
or whatever. Quite often these people are in roles where they are fulfilling a really high social standard. Socially, so in their three avenues. Socially, they are nurses, they're health
mm,
workers, they
mm,
are single mums, single dads,
mm,
or these very, very selfless people actually, in a way, because they prioritize other people's health and well-being. Now, that person has a choice. They can measure themselves by their social well-being and their social self-worth, in which
mm,
case they feel fantastic about themselves all the time, or they can take that side and look at just the physical one, in
mm,
which case all they have to judge themselves by is their own um, their own physical well-being, which has taken a sidestep because they've been looking after everyone else.
that's
Isn't that a sad,
interesting.
sad way to be?
It
We
is.
we prioritize an image, and
Mm,
I think it's a damaging thing that health now has an image.
mm,
Um, if you go into any gym in the country, every single one of their posters will have, whether it's male or female, will have a toned abdomen. A
mm,
lot of, if you search yoga on Instagram, they will all be a certain body type, and they
mm,
will all be slim.
mm,
And as a result, health, because the people representing the health brands are of a certain shape, health now has that image. In which case,
mm.
suddenly, hang on a second, I don't fit that image, so therefore I'm not healthy.
Yes,
That's
because we
wrong.
have different body types, and it's down to genetics, isn't it? You've got to look at your parents and all kinds of things.
It's
And
down to so much. It's down to so much. Yes,
mm,
there are lots of genetic factors. I tend not to focus too much on those with my clients because that's out of our control. We
mm,
can't change that.
mm,
What we can control are our, the factors that are under control is our diet, it's our nutrition, and it's the amount of exercise that we do.
mm,
But
mm,
one of the things that I've asked my clients in the past is that if two people go running, one of them runs to burn calories, and the other one runs just for the fun of it.
mm.
Who's going to run tomorrow?
The one who's running for the fun of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, the person who's running for calories,
Mm,
that's a punishment. It's always a negative. I'm doing it
mm,
for an ulterior. I'm doing it for secondary reason.
mm,
If you run for the fun of it, you're going to do it. You're going to do it regularly, and you're going to do it for as long as you physically can. You're more likely to pick up some of the extra exercises. If you're an active runner because you love it, you're going to pick up other exercises to look after your ankles, your knees, your hips, So suddenly our strength goes up.
Mm.
As our muscle mass goes up, because we're focusing on that, other things come down. Because we're running on a regular basis, our activity levels go up. We suddenly start to say, hang on a second, whilst I'm running, I want to run, but I had that meal last night, or I had that breakfast and it made me feel really sluggish. So I'm not going to eat that again because it made my run feel rubbish. So I'm going to eat this instead. But again, we're now making food choices for a positive reason, because I want to go and run because I enjoy it. It's fun.
Yeah. So you just got
That's
to
so much
find
more
you
powerful.
just got to find that exercise that's good for you, isn't it? Like I don't
Absolutely.
like running, so
So
I
don't
have to find something else. I like things like Zumba and aerobics, so I
Brilliant.
will
So do it.
focus on those things because that's what I enjoy, and I will do those for
Yep.
the fun of it, and I don't
Mm-hmm.
feel like it's a punishment. I'm just having fun for an
There you go.
hour, jumping around and acting silly and waving my
Yep.
arms around, and I like that, and I think that too often we, like you say, we see exercise as a punishment, and
Mm-hmm.
and especially, I don't know, I mean, I'm of a certain age, I don't know about anyone else who's listening, but I remember my first experience of running was cross country running at school. And I just remember that just being a complete and total utter nightmare. I hated it. And I would do anything to get out of it. Or, we used to hide in the bushes and then try and run across the field so that we could intercept the rest of them, and then just pretend we did the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
I hope none of my ex-teachers are watching. But yeah, but yeah, I mean, I know so many people who just hate running because they were made to do it at school, cross country running, and they didn't enjoy it. So,
But how many people do you know who run regularly, and I mean regularly
mm,
for 6 months plus, so close up to a
mm,
year or longer? How many people do you know that run on a regular basis for a long period for a long period of their life, or have done, that don't do it because they enjoy it?
not hard, none, no, hard,
None.
none. Uh,
Yet, if I ask the same question
mm,
about gym goers, how many
mm,
people do you know who go to the gym and have been going to the gym for 5, 6 years
mm,
and don't love it, don't go for the fun?
mm,
Quite a few.
mm.
Because the gym environment's about burning calories.
Yes,
The
yes.
running community is about running,
It's
and that's it.
interesting, isn't it?
Now,
Wow.
I'm a running coach as well, so
Mm,
I teach people how to run,
mm.
and one of the first things that I teach people to do is how to run slowly.
Yes. So why is that? Why
And
do they have to run slowly?
because the biggest barrier for you enjoying it is running too fast.
Okay.
So if you run slower, your heart rate's lower, your lungs aren't burning quite as much. Suddenly, instead of thinking about bang, bang, bang on the tarmac with every single, when you're the last time you ran, or the last time anyone ran and they didn't enjoy it, it's normally because their feet feel really heavy. All they can think about is that impact going through their feet, and it's monotonous, and my lungs hurt, my throat hurts, and all of that is a symptom of working too hard.
Mm. So,
If I taught you instead
mm,
to run, and we bring the hips forwards, we're going to bring the chest up, we're going to stand you
mm,
up nice and tall,
mm.
we're going to slow you right down. And so the first time I teach people to run, I walk next to them and I get them to run at my speed walking.
Oh, wow. See, I could probably
And
cope with that. With a fast
no, but this
walk.
is it. But
Mm,
I ask people, every time they come to me for a
mm.
running session, I say, what's the difference between running and walking?
It's faster. One's just faster than the other.
That's what everybody says, but it's not.
Ah, so what is it then?
Walking, you've either got 1 or 2 feet on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
Running, you've got one or none.
Mm,
That's it. If you look
mm.
at some Olympic walkers, they're quick.
Yes.
Speed has got absolutely nothing to do with it at all.
Mm. So it's one. So walking is when
So
you've
if you
got.
think about the walking stride, you stand on one foot and then you take a step forwards, and when
Mm,
that second foot reaches the floor, it's on the ground whilst the back foot is still on the floor.
So you've got two
When you
or one
run, you
foot on the
jump
floor.
off of one. That's
Right.
it. When you run,
Okay.
it's only ever one or nothing. So you're
Ah.
kind of striding in between, and
Ah.
that's it.
Mm,
So I then walk next to them, and they run beside me, and we chat and we talk.
mm,
And what happens then is that they learn a technique, and
mm.
it's actually far hard. It's actually harder to run slowly than it is to run fast. So
Yes.
for me, the coaching point of view, I know if I can get them to run well slowly, then they're going to be a good runner no matter what speed they run in, which
Yes.
is a secondary reason for me to do it.
So how long?
But
Yeah.
whilst
Go
go on,
on. No, go on.
that's
Sorry.
all right. Whilst they're running, they are, suddenly they can hear the trees moving. They can see the deer that runs across them out the front. They can talk to me. We can have a bit of a giggle. We can have a bit of a joke, and we can enjoy the experience, and that's it.
So how long does it take from when they start running slowly, like at your walking pace, to actually being able to run like to a reasonable jog, as we
What's a
imagine?
reasonable jog?
Well, when we imagine somebody jogging along, so they would overtake you if you were walking. Let's put it that way.
Well, it depends how fast you're walking, I suppose. But if they, so I mean, if I asked them to, we could stride it up straight away, and we could put it in the first session. But that's never when I teach people to run, and we're looking at changing their lifestyle with running. It's never the priority. Speed is never the priority. Now, when I was training for my marathon, I trained myself in the same way. So I sat myself on the treadmill, and I set it to 5 kilometers an hour, and I ran. When I started out, I was running at 5 kilometers an hour, and I did my run, walk, run, walk, run, walk, run, walk, until I got to the point where I could run a 5K at that speed. And then I took myself out on the road.
Right. Okay.
And I kept myself to the same heart rate that I was running at 5 kilometers an hour. And then from there, as I got fitter, as I got stronger, I got back onto the treadmill. And by the time I got up to doing, I ran one of my 16-mile runs at just over 10 kilometers an hour.
Wow.
So I doubled my speed, but it felt exactly the same. I still was running around with my head high.
Yes.
I could breathe.
Chest out.
I could enjoy it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Wow. And
my rule when I was training with my marathon was that when I got to the end, I wanted to know that I could run half of it again. The only time that I'd fail in my training runs was if I got to the end and thought, oh, I've got to stop, can't do anymore.
So just to go
I
back
wanted to finish knowing I had extra.
Wow. So you had extra strength even though you'd finished the marathon? Wow.
I didn't. Yeah, I unfortunately I picked up an injury before marathon, but that was when I did my training. That was the ethos that I took in. I got up to 16 miles before the injury set in my leg.
Okay. So just on going back to the treadmill, what level were you on the treadmill? I'm interested to know.
It varied. In terms of incline?
No, not the incline. The actual, the hardness level. I can't remember what it's called.
So you got incline and speed on the treadmill.
Speed, yeah. What speed were you at?
So speed was 5 kilometers an hour. So it's walking pace, easy walking pace.
Okay.
When I started.
Interesting. I might try that next time I go to the gym and see.
So you go. You will feel strange. You'll feel strange. It will suddenly feel all silly because I'm running when actually I could be walking.
Yes.
But actually, when you teach yourself to settle into it, it can be seriously. It completely switches how you look at it.
Okay. So we've got a comment here.
Start with the run walk.
Someone's Sherry said, "Wow, I've never made the distinction between running and walking beyond speed. That is so insightful." We've got another comment from Denise. She says, "Never heard a PT say physical, social, and mental well-being." And then she's like, yeah. So they're loving that. So so I think you've really come with some different ideas and some different techniques that we've heard before. I mean, we've all heard all the stuff about exercise before, but I think you bring in quite a unique perspective, which is really good. And so tell us about some of the successes that you've had with your clients.
Well, following on from what we said, the biggest successes that I see are not body transformations.
Right.
The biggest successes that I've seen are changes in mental attitudes and watching that kind of that tweak, that realization, hang on a second, this is so much better. I had a young lad who came to me and he filled out a 2-week food diary for me, and we looked at that and we analyzed it. And I said to him, I said, what do you think I'm going to suggest that we change? And he came out with all these different things, right, I need to stop eating this. The typical things that I hear are, I need to stop eating crisps, I need to stop eating that chocolate, I need to stop having that muffin at there, or, whatever it is, take bread out. And he walked away instead with a goal to double his vegetable content.
Interesting.
Eat twice as many vegetables as he ate before.
And he could still include all of those other things?
Eat anything else you want.
But just double your vegetables. Yeah, just double your veg.
So what we do, so my technique, my biggest issue with diets is that you walk in through the door and someone goes, right, this is your new diet. Here's a stack of paper. These are the rules. Now go away and live your life. That's your diet. Just go and live by that. And the problem with that
never works.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. I mean, it might work for 2 weeks. If you're lucky, it might work for 6 weeks or for the length of time you've signed up for. But eventually, life is going to throw its hand. It's going to make it difficult. It's going to make it frustrating. It might be painful. You might go through So emotional torment, work might suddenly get really tough. Whatever it is, the first thing that we go back to is our old habits. So what we do instead, we focus on the exercises being the main drain, if you like, of our mental, out of our willpower, which is a limited resource. And what we do with the nutrition then, or with the diet, is that every so often, can be 2 weeks, can be 4 weeks, depending on what we've done, we make one change to diet, and that's it. And the rule is that it has to be easy.
Yeah. So something you can give up quite easily.
Not give up. A change that you can make easy.
So what? So
this
okay. So
example,
if I
we doubled vegetables.
so give me an example. So if I like to have I don't know, let's say 4 glasses of prosecco a week. Let's be conservative. So if I say I like to have 4 glasses of prosecco every week, and I went to you, and then you just said to me, double your vegetable intake, could I still have the 4 glasses of prosecco?
The first thing we need to do is to work out whether the 4 glasses of prosecco are actually a problem.
Okay.
So one of the best pieces of advice I was given was, it was brilliant. I'd never forget it. But I was talking to another trainer about whole grains versus processed foods, and I was so wrapped up, and I was just saying, no, you're wrong. Processed foods are bad. We need to be eating whole grain foods. And he turned around to me and he said, stop cutting the lawn while the house is on fire. And I said, hang on, what do you mean? And he said, well, if you look at, he said, you're dealing with a small problem that has no significance because the house is on fire.
Yeah.
He said, that's the real problem. And you're cutting the lawn because you're worried what your missus is going to say when you come home. And so I'm stopped and I'm listening now. And he said, what we really need to look at is the balance. And yes, okay, this person might only eat white toast or white bread and white rice. And yes, it's right, whole grain foods are better. But if if the majority of their diet was actually, or the majority of their calories actually came from fat, and they didn't have any vegetables or fruits, but along with this butter and cheese and all the rest of it that they also had white bread and all the rest of it. We could change their bread to whole grain. It's not going to make that much difference.
Right.
But if we say to them instead, hang on a second, you're not getting enough vegetables, we change that, suddenly they might not have to change the white bread.
Yes. Because
in which case that's a battle we don't have to fight.
Yeah, I see what you mean, because they're gonna be enriched and full up with all the good stuff that they might only have 1 slice of white toast instead of 4.
This is it.
Yeah, interesting.
So so what we have to do. I won't touch anyone's diet. I won't give a single recommendation until I've seen at least 2 weeks of their diet,
of the food diary,
written out of the food diary. Because then what we can see the average of that 2 weeks. And when I do that 2-week food diary, I get people in and I say to them, first thing I do before I talk to them about what I've seen, I say to them, right, what did you notice? What would you change? And I always get the same things. It's like, oh, you're going to see my Friday where I had fish and chips, where I was down at the beach. I had an ice cream on Tuesday. I had 2 glasses of red wine on, whatever. And it always makes me smile, because then when we turn it around and when I present to them the average intake on a daily basis, the changes that we suggest haven't got anything to do with what they mentioned. And all those little things that they enjoyed having, and their little vices, as they call them, or they're things that they've been trying so hard to cut out, actually isn't the problem. That's the cutting the lawn. The big problem is the fact they're not getting anywhere near enough vegetables.
Yeah.
They're getting way too many carbohydrates.
Yeah.
They're getting, and all these different things. So with this young lad, I had come in and we looked at his diet. He was actually eating too little.
Eating too little.
There was hardly anything, or there wasn't anywhere near enough nourishment in what he was eating. And so what we did, his only goal, because the biggest thing that was too low were the vegetables. It's always the first one that I prioritized boosting. And so we gave him that, and that's the only one we've changed so far. He's had all the success that he wanted to just from that one change.
Yeah.
And he went from being someone who skipped breakfast and never snacked to being someone who had snacks when he needed them, when he wanted them. But it would be carrot sticks, or it'd be celery, or it would be, and it'd be those things. And because all he's thinking about is, I need to eat at least this amount of vegetables. So Lainey's already said today, 7 to 10. If you go in with that goal of, I need to eat 7 to 10 vegetables, because he's thinking, I've got to fill that quota. That's what he's reaching for. And he's saying, yes, I'm saying yes. I'm saying yes to the carrots.
Mm.
I'm saying yes to more vegetables. I'm boosting this up. Now that's a hell of a lot easier to say than no.
Then cutting out the ice cream or the glass of prosecco. Wow.
But every time you say yes to something, you also say no.
Mm.
When you reach for those carrot sticks instead of something else,
Mm.
when you reach for those carrot sticks, what are you saying no to?
But I
When you
might.
reach for when you take your plate and you say, right, I'm going to make half of my plate
Mm.
vegetables, what
Mm.
have you taken off? What would have taken up the rest of your plate that you've taken off
Probably
again?
carbs. Probably more roast potatoes or
Might be
something like
carbs,
that.
might be
Mm.
absolutely. But instead of saying no to the potatoes, I'm
Mm.
saying yes to this, and that's
Yeah.
so much easier.
It's easier.
And suddenly we've switched that. We've turned the mindset
Yes. So
around.
it's the
So
mindset, isn't it?
instead of
Mm.
saying my diet's all about taking things away and restricting,
It's
my
about
diet is
adding
about
more.
nourishment. It's about feeding me because I deserve it.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yes, and
Your
it's
mum always said to you to eat your greens. She
mm,
didn't take things off your plate.
no, and that's what Lainey was saying. It's about self-love and
Yeah,
self-appreciation, and actually getting in
absolutely.
touch with how you're feeling after you've eaten certain foods. And if there's a lot of guilt there because you've eaten something that you know you shouldn't have eaten, then that's almost like a punishment, isn't it? You're sort of punishing yourself every time you eat something. So, like you were saying, actually, it's not about cutting out those treats. Have the treats and own them, but actually
Mm,
increase all the good stuff so
that's it.
much that you're kind of going to
That's it.
be naturally kind of pushing out some of the bad stuff as well without even
That's
realizing.
it. But without thinking about it.
Yes,
And
without.
this is the thing. And I'm not saying that any of these diets are bad. I'm not saying that any of these diets are wrong.
Mm,
But what I am saying is that the attitudes and the way that they get us to think about food is backwards,
it's wrong.
I
It's
think.
all wrong, isn't
We need
it?
to turn it on its head.
Mm,
Yes, if you look at the fundamental problem of obesity, it is that we're eating too much, we're not
we're
doing
not
enough.
burning
It is
enough.
a simple calorie equation,
Mm,
but to simplify a person to a calorie equation is wrong.
mm,
That is an oversimplification, and the problem, when you look at it that way and when you realize that the problem is not calories in versus calories out, it's how do you feel about you as a person? Why are you eating what you're eating?
interesting.
And I think one of the biggest causes of obesity is lacking of self-worth.
Or putting others before yourself, like you say. But then that comes down to self-worth. But then again, I
Mm,
think as well as that, we are conditioned and programmed from a very young age to have acceptable images of beauty and the way we should look and size and things like that. And that's
mhm.
why a lot of people have those self-worth issues as adults, and it's quite complicated, but yeah, I think it starts very early on, and it's very
It
hard
certainly can do.
to unravel that, because I remember a guy saying to me, well, it's just, you can lose weight, all you have to do is eat less and move more. And it sounds
Yeah.
so simple. Then why is nearly 60% of the population in the UK either overweight or obese? Then it's obviously not that simple. It's a bit more
So if you take that
complex.
statement,
Mm.
you take that statement, and we take, let's imagine someone who is in that position. They are clinically obese. Do we think they think that that's a good thing?
No, of course they don't.
Do we think that they feel brilliant about themselves in that state?
Of course they don't. No.
Bingo. So if we then turn around to them and say, your problem is just a simple calorie equation, it's calories in versus calories out. All you need to do is eat less, so stop being so greedy, and you need to go out and get and do more, so stop being so lazy. Is that going to make them feel better about themselves or worse?
They're going to run to the cupboard and get the donuts.
That's it. And then suddenly we get in a cycle now
Yeah.
of, I'm gonna, the only thing fueling a lot of people to go and supposedly motivating people to go and lose weight, unfortunately now, is self-hate
Mm.
and
Oh,
a lack of self-worth. In which case, that's a very dangerous
it's
cycle,
a
because that
very
will burn
dangerous
out very
cycle.
quick.
I mean,
And
I
then
yeah.
if you then fail, the self-hate grows and it gets worse, and so the obesity grows and it gets worse.
Mm.
And that's a very dangerous cycle to be in.
Absolutely. And being a female empowerment coach, I see it all the time.
Yeah.
Lots of women, you know, there may be different layers to it, but when you get to the absolute core of the issue, it is really about self-love and self-worth. And at some
Hmm.
point early on in their life, something or someone has made them feel not good enough.
This
And it's not that easy. It's a combination of things, and you're right.
But how often is that person, the person that
Mm,
made you feel not very good about
mm.
yourself, how often is that person you?
I think eventually it's you, but where
Mm.
does that come from? You know, it comes
Well,
from,
indeed,
it comes
absolutely.
from things that we see around us, or things that people have said to us. And unless you
Yeah,
unlearn what you've already learned, and like you say, everything that we have learned is kind of backwards. So we have
mm.
to first of all unlearn that and then relearn something else. Yeah.
That's it.
And
Absolutely.
once we do that, it's almost like there's a freedom there, and people can make their own choices. So that's
Yeah,
fantastic. So you're in the middle of writing a book,
I am.
I understand. So can you tell us a bit about it? And yeah.
It pretty much encapsulates everything that we've just talked
Mm,
about.
mm,
So it's a book of two halves.
mm-hmm,
So it's how to transform your body is the first part, and
mm-hmm,
which holds on to a sequence of exercises from basic to advanced, and each one is scalable. So right the way down to someone who cannot get down on the floor,
mm,
who can't kneel, who struggles sitting down and standing back up again. Um, right the way through to someone fairly athletic. You'll find something in that first section. So each exercise has got 10 levels to it.
ah,
And the idea being that then when you're exercising, you're not exercising to burn calories. When you're doing these exercises, you're exercising to move better.
mm,
So the top level squat is not a squat where you're lifting higher weights or burning more calories. It's a squat where you have a greater range of movement and freedom of movement through it.
mm,
So you're fully connecting to each movement, understanding each movement, and growing that way. So that's the first section. And then the second section is how to transform your relationship with your body.
mm,
So first section, how to transform your body. Second section, how to transform the relationship with it. And I take people hopefully through a bit of a journey through initially introducing why I came to write the book in the first place, what was my
mm,
motivation for it, and then I effectively take them through a process of learning how to forgive themselves and their bodies for what they are.
mm,
So and the shape that they are. So we go
mm,
through a period of understanding. So to understand why your body stores fat, why it might be the shape that it is, why different things don't work and other things do, why we age and different things like that. And then once we've gone through understanding, we then work into acceptance, where
mm.
we talk about accepting where our limitations may be, where our expectations may be, and different things like that. And then from there we move on to onto a period then of forgiveness, where we talk about how we might do things better for ourselves.
Mm.
And the true art to forgiveness is knowing that you're not going to make the same mistake again. So if two
Wow.
people have argued, they're not going to, true forgiveness hasn't been reached unless both parties are satisfied that that argument won't happen again.
Mm.
Otherwise, it's still always on the table. So the only time that we can move past where our relationship with our bodies were is when we move into a place where we know that we've set up the right philosophies and attitudes for ourselves, and behavioral patterns with ourselves, that we won't fall into the traps that we have before, and that we're not ever going to see ourselves in that same negative light.
Yeah, and it's almost like you're taking people through a mindset coaching process as well as the whole physical
Yeah,
strength
I
and
would
health
agree with that.
journey, all
Absolutely.
together. It's very holistic, and I think that that's going to work well with a lot of people. So
Yeah, very
wow,
much so. Hopefully,
thank
fingers crossed.
you, thank you so much for that. I think the book's not
No
quite
worries.
out yet, is it? Or is
No, so it's in the proofreading stage at the moment.
okay?
So hopefully that will be out. But any details of any developments will be on my social media pages,
Okay, so
as are all of my coaching
yeah,
pieces
so
as well.
send me a link to your social media pages, and I'll put them in
I
the
will do.
comments. And then when the book's out, you'll have to come back on and tell us about it, Chris. I think
Yeah, we'll do.
you've
That'd be lovely.
talked about some things tonight, which I think has been a bit of a revelation for quite a few people. So thank you for
Good.
that. It's
Pleased to
been
hear that.
very
You're very welcome.
different, and it's been great to have you on the show.
Yeah, thank you
All
for having me.
right,
It's been
okay,
fantastic.
take care, stay in touch,
No worries.
bye.
Angie.
Wow, that was definitely very, very different stuff to what we've heard before, and I think we've had some really brilliant comments. So thank you to both our guests, both Lainey and Chris, who have come on and talked to us both about nutrition and being more mindful, and then Chris talking about movement and physical strength and health and mental well-being and really encompassing all of those things before we even think about weight loss. And I think that's absolutely brilliant. So what I'm going to do very quickly before we wrap up the show, I'm going to give you some tips. We've got some 10 tips for mindful eating, which I think will really benefit you. And I've brought on an old friend, Richard. Hi, Richard. How are you?
Hi, Rose. Doing well.
Yeah,
Great.
good.
It's a great interviews this evening.
Wow,
Both
wasn't that
fantastic.
fascinating? I mean, like some of the
Yeah.
stuff that we were learning, it's very different to the normal rhetoric that we hear. And I like that. And I like the fact that they're both coming at it from a holistic way.
Yes, totally. Totally. I mean, it's really just, I think people need to watch this interview again.
Mm,
Some great knowledge. Really,
mm.
really.
And I think
So,
that what I liked about it was the fact that there was no rules. Like both Lainey was saying that there's no banned foods, and Chris was saying, you know, it's not about this food is good or this food is bad, and we're not going to take things away.
yes,
We're just doubling your vegetable intake. And I think that
yes,
really resonated with me because I think we just underestimate how much actual fruit and vegetables we actually do need in our diet. And I think that's one
yeah,
of the big takeaways that I'm taking from tonight is just double your plate, guys. Double your fruit and veg intake, basically, from now.
yes, yeah.
Excellent. So we've
Well,
got 10 tips.
I love my fruits and veggies,
Yes, yes.
but yeah, I think it's important. It's always a good reminder for everybody.
Mm,
You forget. It's very easy to slip and stop eating your fruits and veggies and go to the cakes and the crisps and snack on those, like they were saying. And it's so easy. Even in the shops, it's really easy to get those instead of the little snacky treat stuff all the time.
mm.
Yeah. So
Okay,
yes,
so
sorry. 10 tips. So first tip of 10 tips for mindful eating. Number one, never do a food shop hungry to avoid impulse buying.
mm,
Um, I mean, that is so easy to do. If you're not thinking about what you're going to eat or what healthy eating, you do end up chucking all sorts of stuff in the basket, don't you, when you're in the
mm.
shops? Yeah. Number two, try planning your meals ahead. Have healthy snacks handy to avoid filling up on unhealthy snacks when hungry.
Mm.
You know, Another very simple thing. Think about what you're going to eat. You know, think about the rainbow. We're talking about the fruits and veggies and stuff. Plan ahead. Number three, start with a small plate to have a smaller portion.
I think that's a very good tip.
Um,
Is actually just get rid of the big plates and eat from a side plate. And then if you're hungry, if you're still hungry, you can fill up with more vegetables.
yes. um, Eat slowly, savoring
Mm.
every mouthful, chewing thoroughly. This will start to make you fuller quicker.
Will it make you feel
Um,
fuller, quicker? Yeah,
yes.
definitely.
Yeah. And so that's another thing,
Mm.
enjoy your food,
Mm.
appreciate it, be grateful for it, just have, just enjoy it. Don't just scoff it down. That's what we're saying.
But what about when you're
um,
hungry?
yeah, even when you're hungry. Take small bites. It's easier to taste food
Mm.
when it's completely in your mouth. It's your mouth
Mm.
isn't full. So same kind of what we are just saying. 7, avoid distractions like the TV and phone, so you can focus on eating mindfully.
Mm.
Um, Same. I mean, if you're not really thinking about what you're eating, you're focusing on watching TV, your favorite
Mm.
shows, and you're probably not even sat properly while you're eating, so your food's not probably even digesting properly.
And what about when we have the big bowl of popcorn when we're watching a film?
Well, that's not me, but my mum is. She's a popcorn lady, popcorn queen.
Yeah.
Number 8, focus on how the food makes you feel. Do you feel energized or sluggish? pay attention to how your body feels after you've eaten.
I
This
mean,
isn't something
I
else.
started doing this, and it does make a difference, like what you're eating and as to how you feel afterwards. It makes a huge difference.
Yeah, I mean, gut ache, headaches. There's all sorts of things,
Mm,
with foods. If you're not kind of aware of, what you're eating, not
mm.
like aware of yourself, how you feel with what you're eating.
And before
Um,
you go on next, there was another one as well, is to fill your plates with salad and vegetables first before adding anything else. So make sure at least the minimum half the plate is full of like vegetables and salad before you even think about putting your carb and your protein on your plate.
yes,
So
yes,
help yourself to
more
vegetables
veggies.
first.
It's a great way to cut down on your meat intake if you want to
Mm,
do that as well.
yeah.
Oh, and definitely your carbs. If you
Mm,
don't need the carbs, if you're not working out later or the next day, you don't really need so much carbs.
yeah.
So, yes, we go back to more veggies, definitely. Number 9, stop eating when you're full. Eating more slowly gives your brain a chance to catch up with your body, and it can take your brain 20 minutes before it gets the message that you're actually full.
Mm,
So, I mean, I'm somebody that used to do this quite often, and until you become aware, it's very easy to eat some more and eat and like stretch your belly out just and doing that regularly. And before you know it, after a week, you've put on half a stone.
what about when you've
So
undone your button? Have you done that one? You've got your trousers, your trousers or your
lean,
jeans,
lean
and you
back.
undo the
Yeah,
top
lean back.
button. What's that about? Why do we do that? Just stop.
Yes, stop overeating. There's no need. When when you're full, when you
Yeah.
feel like you're full, just stop.
Mm,
And number 10, ask yourself if you're truly hungry.
mm.
If you're not sure, have a glass of water. That's if it's just a snack you need, especially. Glass of water is good.
Yeah, like
Um,
Lainey said, not just a couple of sips, but drink the full glass, a big glass,
yes,
and drink the whole full
yes,
glass mindfully, slowly, and let's digest the water first, because then you will feel fuller before you even attempt to eat.
yes, exactly. So, and that's a very simple thing to do, and it's
Mm,
something that many of us don't even think about doing. We
mm,
go straight for a snack. You know, you can just fill that space up in your belly till dinner
mm,
time or lunchtime or
mm,
whatever it is. And
mm.
obviously it hydrates you. It'll help you think better, and yeah, just give that a go. I mean, I love a herbal tea,
Mm.
and if you need to lose a bit of weight, herbal teas can aid with that. Green teas and lemon and ginger, that sort of stuff. Um, Try some herbal teas as well. I'd say that may
Yeah,
aid
and
to your
peppermint tea is
weight
really
loss.
good for digestion. So if you've got a bit of
Yes,
upset stomach after you've eaten maybe a big meal, you could sip
yeah,
on some peppermint tea, and that really helps to ease your digestion a bit.
yeah. Bring your food down, and
Mm,
I mean, Lainey was talking about going to the loo. Anything
mm,
that helps you go to the loo is good for you. It's great. It's clear
yeah.
anything that doesn't need to stay in your body, any toxins and stuff.
Mm.
So, so yeah, those are your 10 tips.
Wow. Thank you so
Yeah,
much, Richard. So that brilliant. And when's the next show? It's in 2 weeks' time.
yes, we're coming on. Is that the 2nd of
I think
September?
it's the 2nd of September now. I
Yeah,
think, yes, I think, yeah, because we're in the middle of August, aren't we? So yeah, it'll be early September, the next show.
yep.
Wow, wow.
We're going to be stepping into relationships,
Relationships, love and
which is exciting.
relationships. Ooh,
Yeah.
yes,
So,
yes.
after all of that summer loving, it's time to get serious and, see what's going down with the relationship
Yes.
stuff.
Okay, cool, cool, cool.
Yeah.
Well, they think there might be a baby boom after the lockdown as well.
Well, it wasn't me. That's all I can say.
Thank you so much, Richard. I think we better finish on that note.
Fantastic. Thank you, Ros. Great show. Really,
Yes.
really great show.
And thank you to our two guests,
Fantastic.
Lainey and Chris. I'm going to drop their details in the comments and see you in 2 weeks' time.
Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.